are your paintings for sale?
You have to come over to the house. Being in Austin, it's easier to not be influenced by the art world. Even if you're not part of the art world in New York, you're reacting to it in some way. You're either reacting because of it, or you're reacting against it, or in some way it's a pervasive fact of life for an artist. In Austin, it's just not there.
Julie's been sort of a, how shall I say, kind of a legendary character around here, and her art also, you know, for decades. I don't think anybody's not conscious of Julie's work.
We can do in-house, and it's just fun because you kind of get to use a different set of muscles.
There's nobody in Texas who has accomplished what she has accomplished in terms of identifying imagery and using and juxtaposing that imagery in original ways to come up with something very poetic and something new and fresh.
It's a mystery that involves you and makes you want to come more and more inside the picture. So it's not a mystery that confuses. I'm convinced that great art in any field, whether it's music or painting or writing or whatever, it's great not because of what it tells you, but it's great because of what it reminds you of that you knew but just didn't remember you knew.
I'm Corky Hilliard. I'm so glad to meet you. I've watched your stuff with great interest for a while. I've got a book from
When I saw her work here at the Austin Museum of Art, there was one piece called, I think it's Tea or Tea Time, but it's a picture of two women having tea at a table, and the table's underneath a window that looks out on a scene. And it's very innocuous, you know, it's very interesting until you really get up and look at what's happening out that window. People are jumping off roofs. There's a naked man running down the street with a dog who's biting his heel. There's a cart being pulled by a horse that has corpse stacked up in the back of it. I mean, it's just the oddest thing you ever saw.
She does have paintings where the characters look upset. They're like, you know, their teeth are all showing, you know, they're mad. And I'm less drawn to those. I find them funny, but they resonate less with me than the almost obliviousness.
Many people look at Julie Speed's work and they say she's talented, but she uses gimmicks. She puts in a third eye. She makes interesting distortions. It's a craft, it's a gimmick. But if you probe her work, there is something very profound and new and original that she has to say.
We should do a couple, because I really like it. Now it's not a mistake.
Now it's art.
Now it's art, yeah.
You said so.
And it must be true, just remember that.
When you meet many great, great painters, you usually find that when they paint a female, they're painting an ideal view of their spouse, of the love of their life. Julie's certainly the same thing. Her authority figures, her cardinals, her generals, all have some of the features of this wonderful individual who's her husband.
I'm always surprised by what comes out of her head. You know, I can't really explain it half the time. I was always used to having the paintings around the house for a good long time, you know, because they weren't flying out the doors for years. They'd be hanging on the wall. It was fun because one morning I'd wake up and look at the painting at the foot of my bed and see something completely different than I'd been seeing for months.
Julie Speed lives within her imagination. She is somebody whose art comes out of the life that she lives morning, noon, and night within her room. It's her dreams, it's her sleeping, it's her life with her pet parrot, it's her husband, it's the world that she lives in. She's somebody of very simple tastes, and her art is a poetry of her room, her imagination.
This is the hell closet. Doesn't everybody have a hell closet? This is one of my mother's little sarcophagus that she made. When she retired from business, she took up ceramics. And these are some of her pieces. And there's a bunch more over there beside Jesus. She's really wonderful. was a kid, I just love looking at portraits. The third eye is a way for me to express in the painting that the person is thinking of more than one thing at one time. This was on the kitchen table at my great Aunt Phyllis's house in Maine. And from the time when I had to stand on my tiptoe to look at her, I would stand there for as long as someone would push her and make her dance. She is my favorite. I like being alone. When I was a kid, that was like the best thing about the way my parents raised me was I was allowed to spend as much time as I wanted by myself, which I did. So I'm usually much more comfortable being alone than being with people. Hence the terror at the book signings.
Julie went to the Rhode Island School of Design to, should we say, learn modern art. When she was there, she discovered that all the students and most of the faculty were making abstract paintings, and she wanted to make figurative art. She wanted to make pictures that had illusion. She soon discovered that there was very little she could learn at art school.
She's so focused, and she's got a great routine, something I never had. Discipline to every day go to work, do what you're doing, and just keep doing it and doing it. And that's really how she learned. She's really self-taught.
This Bellini portrait is probably my favorite portrait ever done, if I had to choose. And you can see that it's pleasing as shapes and volumes and color. And you don't really have to think about the person in it. It's pleasing from across the room. When you get closer, you could think about, well, this is a person, and think about his personality. You could think about him as a symbol of power. But really, it's shapes and volumes, and then what draws you in is there's little wrinkles and hairs and patterns. Sometimes I'll spend so much time on a painting that I've seen it too much, so I can't make any decisions anymore. Quite often I'll turn a canvas upside down or look at it in the mirror so that I can get back to the bones of the painting, and the bones are usually a series of triangles or squares or volumes or lines and colors that I'm looking at, and it's the bones. I put the skin on later, but the first thing is always the design. Because I paint so slowly, I'll just make little sketches. Then I'll do a really detailed pencil underdrawing. I'll photograph the pencil underdrawing because you'll have the perfect expression and then you'll lose it in all the layers of paint. So by taking a photo of it, then I have it there and I'll print it out and hopefully get back to where I was. As I go along and put layer after layer after layer, it's not a real person, not a real person, not a real person. And then one day, there it is. It's like, whoa, something's looking back at me. And the day that happens, I'm so happy. You know, I go, oh, Fran, come look, it's here, it's here. The paintings almost always surprise me, at least in one point during the process of painting them. Sometimes, when I'm doing the underdrawing, it takes me days. Then I might start another painting, and by noon, I have the entire thing exactly the way I want, and she's looking at me, or he's looking, whatever, looking at me, and it's perfect. And I don't even remember doing it.
What is that?
And then they're sort of like medical illustrations.
That looks sort of heart-like.
Yeah, but they're also sort of like maps. I'm not
Did
sure.
you make them up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of Julie's collectors we love. They're great people. Of course, they got to be a little odd to, you know, like Julie's stuff. So we usually click. And it's great because, you know, they'll have us over for dinner or something, and, you know, I'll see a painting that I haven't seen for 2 or 3 years. It's like, you know, it's like having your kids go away to boarding school or something. It's sometimes it's bad because it'll be so old that Julie will look at it and go, I want that back.
I had a piece of hers, and I'll tell you the truth, I didn't know it was hers. This is how someone gave it to me as a gift when my daughter was born. And I hung it in the bathroom. She came over, and at some point she went in that bathroom, and she comes out with the piece.
And Julie says, you can't have this. I'm taking it home. And she says, why? She says, because I don't like it, and I'm gonna tear it up. I'll give you another one. So she took it home and put it in the fireplace. Strange things like that will happen.
I had a hard time when the Austin Museum was doing the show here. They collected back a lot of work that I hadn't seen in a long time, and some of the things needed varnishing. And I must say that while I was varnishing them, a few of them, I just fixed a few things.
This is a painting that I own. This imagery gets me. I'm from South Dakota, and in fact, my cousin and I went out onto the prairie. We lived in the country for a while, out in the country. Went out onto the prairie one fall day and set the prairie on fire. And got in trouble for it and couldn't control the fire and had to go get our dads and lie and say we found the fire.
Fire can cook your food, it can warm your house, it can burn down your house. It has so many functions in our lives that it's one of those things that's part of your vocabulary.
Oh, look at the little burning boat.
Yeah, actually, I was going to not burn the boat because I thought, oh, this time I won't burn the boat, and then I had to go back in. I had to go back in and burn the boat.
The painting that we used on the cover of my record is called Setting the World on Fire. I came over with most of the record finished, not all, and I was in that 11th hour panic. So I decided to do this blatantly commercial thing, which was to take the cover that I'd chosen, write the song about the person in the cover, and include the title of the album within the song. And it was what ended up being Sonny Came Home. She had another piece, sort of part gouache, part pins and things like that, called A Few Small Repairs. And the image of the woman in Setting the World on Fire kind of being in the foreground with this lit match, and then the background having there's this huge fire, you know. I thought the title of A Few Small Repairs was hysterical with that image, you know. It's obviously not A Few Small Repairs. It was, you know, burning down the entire fucking world. And I thanked her on national TV when I went to so that was, she liked that. That was a big deal. Well, how often does a painter get mentioned on national TV at the Grammy Awards?
I did this years and years ago. It's the critics later recanted. I had to use just a regular drill with a masonry bit on it, which meant that each hole took about 12 or 15 minutes of going to get, and so I would save them for punishment for when I drunk too much the night before. And I'd go, okay, that's like a 5-hole punishment I need this morning. So it was a lot of months before I finally had done enough penance, and there he was. I did think it would be really great to buy about 20 of them and put them all across the wall there, and then sit here with a shotgun and get them and so that they would have like be all different degrees of shot. But I figured the neighborhood wouldn't like it. They would. A lot of people ask me questions. Oh, well, you know, did you do this? Did you paint the priest like this because you were molested by a priest as a child? You know, a lot of people want to draw that kind of conclusions because our society is set up with a sort of idea that art and self-expression are one and the same. I don't really think my paintings have anything to do with me as a person or with my intellect. I feel my paintings as something outside of myself completely. Look at her And yeah, they just started coming, the new ones.
Really?
And when you can look at the I don't
And
know.
how did they come? They just came. They were invented. They just like
Show
like
up.
blossoms. They just
Show
invented.
up.
Yeah.
Show up like people show up on your doorstep.
Her inspiration is the art of the past. And you look at her paintings, and of course you see the similarities between the realism, the almost Flemish realism of the 15th century of her touch.
One of the biggest reasons that I like to paint what look like cardinals is because I get to use cadmium red, my favorite color. Red is worn by Santa Claus and hookers. Who else gets to wear red? Cardinals. Just every day in the news, somebody was blowing themselves up, and I was just thinking about that moment when it's just happened. And before anybody even moves or reacts, and you're sitting in a cafe, and you know, you've just gotten this lovely bowl of fruit, and all of a sudden, boom, you know, you're splattered. How do you go on from there? What happens that instant? I didn't want to make it like a gore picture. It was living and it was beautiful, and now it's dead. But this is before it rots. The process of starting a painting for me starts with usually getting in the bathtub. And I get in the bathtub and just lie there, and pictures come and they form themselves, and they sort of do a little parade in front of my eyes. It's not always in the bathtub. The bathtub is just where it's most accessible. Also, they come a lot long distance driving, you know, anything that's sort of like, you know, no thinking.
Before I saw any pictures of her, I heard a quote that some of her favorite things to do was to garden, drink tequila, and drive around in West Texas.
One of the best things about being in Austin is that West Texas and a place, you know, in South Texas, all these places where you can be absolutely alone, where you don't even have to hear an airplane, is right on your doorstep. Somehow you're going to this place where you can easily connect up with that which is beyond us. And so it's like making a pilgrimage. I like to stay at the Marathon Motel and RV Park, Cabin 10 in Marathon, because Cabin 10 is the one farthest out onto the desert, and you can look straight across the desert to Santiago Peak. In between you and Santiago Peak is the railroad tracks. And one day I was just walking out to get a better look at the mountains and cross the railroad tracks, and then I noticed there was some junk, and so then I got on the railroad tracks and started walking, and then I'd found more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and pretty soon I had everything I could possibly carry and brought it back to the motel, and then went back for some more stuff. Doing the collages, like particularly the geometric collages, are for me practicing thinking that way. It's that process of looking at everything and figuring out which things you want to keep. And, you know, if you can tear them out of a book and keep them, then you keep them that way. If you just file them away in your mind, you keep them that way. Then what I'm looking at for this piece is I have a Gustave Doré Bible from about 1760 that was in a flood in Galveston. What did I do with my glasses? I open the trunk and then pick up one piece. And then just go from there. It's just one thing follows to the other, and it's all just associations. Part of my game also is I'm not allowed to copy anything. I'm not allowed to blow it up, blow it down, use the computer, or anything like that. If I don't have the piece that goes into what I want, then I have to paint it. And I use little tiny brushes and try to, you know, paint over and blend it into the existing old paper that I have. some lace, some scientific diagrams. So what I like about it is none of the things really go together to start with. The other rule is I'm not allowed to tear up any good books. So, and by good books, I don't mean the Bible, I mean good, usable books. So, books that have been in fires or floods, or children. Children are my friends. They wreck a lot of books. I think of it like doing scales, sing which I can't, like singing scales before you sing a song. You're fooling around with shape and color in a really pure way that's not confused by content. And so I'll do this for weeks, just sort of arranging and rearranging, and somehow I've taught my eye something while it's happening. And I'm not sure what, but if I take a couple months and do this, then when I go back to my paintings, I paint better. And I don't really know, what the mechanism is, why it works. It just does seem to work. All right, I found it. Fran is the guy that when I was 16 years old, I saw him across the room at a party. He was 16 also, and I grabbed my girlfriend, Mary Ellen, and dragged her over and said, "See the guy across the room with the big nose?" Said, "I'm going to marry him." He's the one when I get stuck on a painting, I can yell and go, come help, and I'll go, "What's wrong with this?" And he'll go, "Green, not brown, put green." I'm really happy about this one too. He knows my paintings almost as well as I do. All the pieces are in his head too, because we've been together for so long. We could make a third one.
Fran may be specially endowed to be the companion of Julie. He was a very, very great drummer. And of course, what does a drummer do? A drummer accompanies other musicians. So she's married a great accompanist.
Julie came up with this because she wanted things and couldn't afford the time to run back and forth to the printer. And so one day I said, "Hey, let me try that." So I found a press, bought some cheap paper, read a bunch of books, and just figured it out in trial and error. And it took her about 6 months, I think, before Julie said, "Hey, maybe you can do that for me." Which surprised me. I figured it was going to take about 2 years.
Now it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning, and he'll be out there printing, and I go out and go, "Fran, it's 1 o'clock. Come on, let's play Scrabble, or let's go to bed or something." And he'll go, "Well, just one more, just one." He's having fun.
Marguerite. Just to say something. These little dates. Julie Speed as an artist, Julie Speed as a person are different species. Julie Speed as an artist is a wonderfully insightful, provocative, original talent. Julie Speed as a person is the most charming, engaging individual you'd ever want to know.
What drew you to this image?
Come on, a fat guy in PJs.
You have to have a great knowledge of art to appreciate Julie Speed. I would like to think that you do, but I find that many of the collectors of her work are people with backgrounds in music, backgrounds in film, backgrounds in theater, backgrounds in business. They're not people who have steeped themselves in art history. In fact, her work seems to appeal more to people who find a resonance with history and the past.
Oh, baby.
Who could not want to own a picture of that? I am the queen of my room. I'm the only one home. It's easy to be queen if one is all alone. I am the queen of my room, empress of my domain. I used to take on lovers, but they caused me too much pain. I am the queen of my mind, and my mind's upstairs maid. I work hard to keep it tidy, and I never get paid. It's my way or the highway, I practice saying in the mirror. If I only had some minions, then my meaning would be clearer. My opinions are polished, bright as brass with spittle. If I have to split a hair, then I split it down the middle. I'm the queen of my room and the queen of my brain. I like to boss my thoughts around so they can't cause pain. I think it's a rap song. It would be really good.
To do what Julie does takes an enormous amount of courage, really. I mean, anytime an artist says, this comes from inside me, I mean, it's like taking all your clothes off and laying down on a table and opening all the doors and all the windows and inviting people in, and they can either laugh or they can applaud at what they see. It takes an enormous amount of courage. You know, and there's never a guarantee that somebody's going to applaud, ever. In fact, the better chance is, you know, they're going to guffaw.
Or write a really crappy review.
Yeah.